So yesterday, Davante Adams was on the Rush podcast, who is hosted by Maxx Crosby, his teammate on the Raiders, and they went over a plethora of different things. Now, he did talk a little bit about being traded away from the Green Bay Packers, how that process was like through that last year, getting offered not as much money as he thought he was worth, and so on and so forth. We know the history. Davante Adams was traded to the Las Vegas Raiders for a second round and a first round draft choice. But Davante then kind of started to talk about Jordan Love and had some very interesting things to say about Jordan Love. And it seems like a lot of players around the league, especially Davante, who in a different world could still be on the Green Bay Packers playing with Jordan Love, they're starting to take notice on Jordan Love. So let's roll the clip.
Really wordy way of saying at the time when I was there, I hadn't necessarily seen enough to say this is for sure what I should do. But in hindsight, like we talked about, I mean, the kid is a baller, man. I'm so happy for him, and you know, I haven't really had a chance to truly sit down and talk with him, but I want to tell him at some point, like, you know, I definitely don't regret changing, but I'm super proud of what you've done, and you know, if there was a way I could pull you over here and you know and drag you with me like that, you know, that would have been cool
not
too.
A chance.
You know, obviously we saw what he did at the end of the year, but I don't regret what I did, but at the same time, it's definitely, you look back on it, you like, damn, that boy got a ball.
Could he be the next one?
Could he be? I mean, I think he is. I think he's shown that. Yeah. And he's starting to come into his own. I mean, you can see the way he's talking in front of the media and everything. It's just like a whole different person than what I saw when I was there. Yeah. And that comes with experience.
So in other words, it seems like Davante Adams, at least a little bit, regrets leaving Green Bay, heading over to Vegas to play with his former college teammate Derek Carr, or like he said, go from one Hall of Famer to another, which is still crazy that he did say that, considering Derek Carr's not even on the team anymore. They signed Gardner Minshew over the offseason. They still didn't draft a quarterback, which I think is insane, and no discredit to Gardner Minshew. I do like Gardner Minshew, but when Davante Adams is looking at it, and even saying in this podcast pretty much like, oh, if we could get him over here, like he's already discrediting the current quarterbacks on the roster. And then I understand it. Like you go from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. That's a big downgrade. And then furthermore, you just have a rotation of random quarterbacks over the last year. You know, Aiden O'Connell's in there, Jimmy Garoppolo, nothing that really sticks. And then they go out this offseason and sign a free agent in Gardner Minshew, which I think is a decent quarterback, but he's probably best if he's a bridge quarterback. And this is a strong quarterback draft class, and they still didn't go out and get someone. So I could see why Davante would be annoyed. But at the end of the day, he made that decision. He wanted to be traded from Green Bay and go to Las Vegas to then, at the time, play with Derek Carr. And I think the Packers made the right move. Like, when you look back at this trade, you know, getting a first rounder and a second rounder, like no discredit to Davante. He's one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL, and I understand why he did it. But the Packers, I think, won this trade, right? Out of those draft picks, selecting Quay Walker, and then in the second round, using that pick in a package to trade up for Christian Watson. Verdict's still out on both of these players, but both of these players are still very young and have their whole career ahead of them, where Davante's 31 years old this year. And another thing that makes this easier, that the Packers don't have Davante, is the success of their wide receiver room. This wide receiver room has really transformed into one of the rooms with the most depth. Yeah, sure, there's not a true wide receiver number one, but there's so much depth. You know, Christian Watson shows a ton of flashes. Romeo Doubs, very consistent. And the rookies from last year, Jaden Reed, Tay Wicks, both showed plenty of flashes last season and look to take a sophomore jump. And then you have the likes of Bo Melton, who basically, you know, came from a practice squad on Seattle and is now, you know, in that rotation of wide receivers, and Malik Heath, an undrafted free agent that had to start a couple games last year and played decently well. So that room is so deep enough that the Packers didn't have to draft or sign an undrafted free agent wide receiver in this entire offseason. And of course, that again circles back to Jordan Love. And Davante Adams said it best. I mean, Jordan Love is balling out right now, and he probably will be that guy. You know, there's still that thought in the back of my mind, like, what would it look like if Davante Adams was still here with Jordan Love? But then the whole chemistry of the team would be different, right? At least when Aaron Rodgers was here with Davante Adams, it seemed like he was looking his way a lot, which he should, but it seemed like sometimes the ball got forced that way. Not saying Jordan Love would do that, but I like the current dynamic of the wide receiver room with the Green Bay Packers, and that's, you know, spreading the ball around a ton, getting plenty of different wide receivers into the game in different ways. It just works. It works for Matt LaFleur. it works for Jordan Love. So I just thought that was very interesting and wanted to show you guys that clip. It's a long podcast, but that was just a little snippet from when he was talking about Jordan Love. I'm going to link the full podcast down in the description below from Maxx Crosby's podcast. So if you want to go watch the full thing or whatnot, the link will be down in the description below. But I appreciate you guys coming by. Leave a like down below if you did enjoy the video, but I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.